Hello. Thank you so much for joining me recently for the video cast that we did in August, and thank you also for all of you who participated in the many fantastic comments, questions and responses to that session. I'm also thoroughly looking forward to meeting some of you in Colombia in a couple of weeks' time to work with you again. What I would like to do is just spend a couple of minutes summarising some of the key points that I think came out of the discussions and comments and questions, and underline two or three of the most crucial elements that I think we must all continue to consider and debate as we move forward and explore how we can transform education to ensure that it's fit for purpose, that it's fit to prepare our children for the challenges that they face in their future lives, and to ensure that they don't just survive but thrive in the complexity of that future. I think the first thing I'd like to do is talk a little bit again about creativity in an educational sense. You know, there has been so much discussion, and yet again so much reference was made to creativity, what it is, how we use it, where it goes, through the session we had online. And I just want to reiterate what I think creativity is in that schooling context, and just why it's so important. You know, for me, creativity is a very complex and often overused term. It's used now so often in so many ways by so many people that I think we have lost its purest definition. Now, for me, creativity is that ability to find something of interest, to be curious, I suppose, to have the confidence and courage to explore that thing of interest, to hypothesize, to play, to experiment, to mould, to shape, and as a result to come to a new understanding, a new concept about something, a new use for something, a new skill, a new ability to be able to do something that we couldn't do before. To me, that's the purity of the creative process. And I suppose in my own mind as an educator, when I talk through the principles of creativity that way, I kind of think that creativity and learning are virtually the same thing. So one of the crucial questions that we need to ask, and I know we talked a lot about on the conversation boards on the website, where does it go? You know, I maintain that we're born creative. We're born with that ability as a fundamental part of our human intelligence. It's why we make that extraordinary progress between the ages of 0 and 5. That natural ability to learn, to be curious, to be creative. And of course the truth is that what happens as children begin their formal education process, their formal education journey, is they become more and more risk averse, because what we teach them is that getting things right is the currency of success. And the truth is that in my experience, you learn nothing new by getting something right. You only learn something new from the point of a mistake or the realization that you can't do something. So we need to redefine risk, mistake making and failure in the minds of our children. To do that, we need to reconfigure what it means to our parents, to our teachers, to our politicians and to our complete communities. Because unless we can see risk-taking and mistake-making as the point of discovery, the point of learning something new, education is going to continue to stagnate, and our children will continue to leave their education journeys and enter adulthood as risk-averse people who will always seek out the certainties that we've already discussed no longer exist. I also think that one of the crucial elements to take from that online session is the need to focus unapologetically on skills and competencies as the core to our curricular development for our children. You know, people too often talk about resilience, teamwork, self-confidence, creativity, curiosity, problem solving as soft skills. But what we know is that those soft skills are the hard currency of the 21st century. This is something backed up by the OECD in all of their reports around education and economic futures. They talk extensively about the countries that are the most dynamic in the world at the moment, educationally and industrially, are countries that are focusing on development of competencies and skills in their young people to develop more entrepreneurial and more enterprising mindsets that are driving the economic development of those countries forward. So we cannot allow content-driven learning, content-driven teaching, and a political desire to lock down content-driven curriculum to happen, because that simply won't prepare our children for the future. What it'll do is elegantly prepare them for a world that no longer exists. And my final point is something bigger, and something that I was so excited by in the discussions that we were having online in August. You know, what I find fascinating about those sessions are the people who come from different walks of life to participate in those education debates. Not just educators or university professors, but parents and business people, people with a greater, wider interest in the preparation of our children for their futures. And one of the things I'm passionate at the moment about, and something I'd like you all to think further about, is that wider concept of collaboration. We must break down the walls around education that most of society believes that we drop our children at school when they're 3, 4, 5 years of age, and we pick them up educated at 18. That fantastic old African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child," is absolutely central to my passionate belief that if we're to prepare our children properly for their futures, all of us need to work together on that education program. We need far more active discussion and involvement between businesses and business leaders and educators and educational leaders. We need far more active involvement from parents and other members of our society and communities in the education of our children. We need to set up meetings and forums and opportunities for those discussions to take place, with children themselves more actively involved in the learning journey and the design and preparation for that learning journey. Again, it's interesting that the OECD in all of their reports don't just cite those dynamic countries as developing competencies and skills-driven curriculum. But the other thing they all have in common is a greater sense of purposeful collaboration. So those for me are the things we need to work on. Firstly, we need to redesign the concept of risk and failure. Secondly, we needed to be wedded in the belief that we need to develop our children's levels of competencies and skills and put them at the forefront of the education journey. And thirdly, that we're all in this together, and that collaboration is the only way forward to ensure our children have that thriving future that we all dream about. So to all of you, thank you for your participation, and to some of you, I really look forward to meeting you in Colombia. For now, goodbye.